Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of our show. This is your host, Keith Doherty. Today our special guest is Associate Broker Robyne Roveccio with Realty One Group based out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Robyne is an associate broker with Realty One Group where she prides herself on exceeding her customers' expectations in the purchase and sale of residential real estate. It's important to her that her clients know, like, and trust her and works to that end. She works by referral only and enjoys celebrating the clients she serves by supporting their businesses through quarterly business mixers and client appreciation parties. She holds a bachelor's degree in education, a master's degree in counseling, and an Arizona real estate broker license. Her proudest moments include being one of 16 recipients of the Silver Apple Award for Teaching Excellence, being named Top Agents Magazine's Top Agent for August 2015, and being in the top 20 of the most successful agents in her Realty One Group office in 2015. In addition to her highly successful real estate career, Robyne competed nationally for 8 years and earned her IFBB Figure Pro card in 2013. Robyne, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Keith. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're thrilled to have you here. Now, I guess before we dive into the real estate side, IFBB, isn't that like competitive bodybuilding? Is that correct?
It is. It is correct. It's the International Federation of Bodybuilding, and it's actually the sponsor. It's actually where the Olympia. All of those athletes are IFBB pros. So yeah, it's a pretty well-known federation.
Wow, that's cool. Well, congratulations on that. I'm sure that took a lot of hard work and 8 years of that. So that's great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a tremendous experience.
So I guess if we could kind of turn back here and start with, what led you into real estate? Was it something that you always knew you wanted to do, or did you kind of stumble into it?
Being a real estate agent is something I never intended to become. I was currently working in public education as a teacher and a counselor for about 16 years, and was 5 years overdue for a change. There was a freeze on education salaries. I was doing more paperwork than helping kids, which is what I really love to do. So I was considering going back to school to either get my PhD in psychology or education administration, because it seemed like the logical thing to do, the next step in my career. A friend of mine had just gotten her real estate license. She was working from home, was making a decent living. So in 2005, I went to real estate school during the summer break, and I took the plunge.
Wow, that's we've talked to quite a few people in the real estate field, and it seems like that most real estate kind of was a product of their environment. Somehow it just kind of happened to them, and they kind of happened into it. But it's great to see all the success that people have had with it.
Most definitely, yeah, most definitely. I never saw myself as a salesperson. I never saw myself, I had this perception about what real estate agents were and the sales aspect, and I thought I could never do sales. I'm not a salesperson. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. So, kind of moving forward here a little, and you've obviously had, considerable success. What personal attributes or traits or qualities do you think have most contributed to that success, and how do you think you developed those?
Well, I'd have to say the attributes that contributed to my success primarily were perseverance, a deep love for helping people, a thirst for knowledge, being extremely disciplined, and being okay with not being successful right out of the gate, and kind of learning to fail forward and be patient with my progress. I think that those were the most contributing factors to my success. And the second part of your question, how did I develop these traits? I think my deep love for helping people is just part of who I am, and it's the fiber of my being. I've always been in the helping profession. I always loved service and being of service to people. The perseverance and the discipline and the failing forward, I kind of attribute that to two things. One is, I was a teenager and I dropped out of high school in the middle of my junior year and had to go to work full time. I left home at an early age to get away from a kind of a not so great environment. And it took a lot of perseverance, it took a lot of discipline, it took a lot of hard work to keep myself from having to go back. And I think that I gained a lot of evidence as far as what I was really capable of, because at 16, 17 years old, you're not really quite sure what you're capable of. So I kind of threw myself into this scenario, and I came on top. So I think that that's where I got the qualities to succeed. And the second one was during another way that I developed these traits was during my years as a competitive athlete. When I set a goal to get my pro card, I just knew that I was going to get it. Like, there was just nothing stopping me. It was just this goal that I had, and I didn't care how long it took. I didn't care, what I had to do to get it done as far as changing my training. I just persevered. I took the lessons that I learned as a teen. I knew that I would find a way to succeed, and I just kept moving forward, and eventually it happened.
Yeah, Robyne, I think that's great, and I think there's two key points there that I'd like to point out to the listeners. Is the first thing you mentioned, perseverance, and I think that's key to really point out to everybody that, when you really have that end goal in mind, when you really want to focus on something, that you continue to strive and move towards it. And I think it worked hand in hand with what you said for the second part of that was, pretty much having the mindset or the philosophy of there is no other options. The option is, like you said, when you wanted to get your IFBB Pro card, there was no failing. There was no option. I want the card. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to keep the right mindset, and I'm going to go after it until I get it. So I think it's pretty powerful what you said there. The two, I think, work hand in hand to really help drive you to the success that you've had.
Yeah, very much so, and that's just kind of the way I operate. It's just always been goal oriented. I'm the type of person that has to have a goal in mind and something to work towards. It's kind of like I need that roadmap, and that's just kind of the way I live life and the way I run my business.
Now, you kind of gave us the example there of, going after your IFBB Pro card. Maybe could you give us maybe a specific example of when these traits have played a role in your path towards success, maybe in your real estate career?
Sure. So much like my training as a competitive athlete, I happened to choose perfect time to get to real estate when the market was tanking. And so, having this mindset that I wasn't a salesperson and not having a steady paycheck coming in as I had in the 16 years I was in public education, I was thinking, okay, well, I've been here before where things have been really hard and it seems like a monumental wall to climb over. However, I have gained a lot of evidence that I can persevere, and if I stay focused and I stay disciplined and I set goals, that I can build a business that I can depend on.
Excellent. So, obviously in your path towards the success that you've had, I'm sure that it always hasn't been a smooth road. You even mentioned having to drop out of high school and things like that, and there tends to always be obstacles in everybody's life as they move forward. So what are some major, adversities or trials that you had to overcome to achieve the goals that you've done so far?
That's a great question. And as I said, I got into real estate during the worst market ever, and this is a time when real estate agents were, quitting and going back to full-time jobs, and the industry was just kind of turned upside down. So I really had to, with the limited knowledge I had of the real estate industry, I just had to find a way to build my business, build my clientele, and kind of learn from the ground up. So not having any client base at all, people knew me as an educator, not as a real estate agent. So what I did is I marketed to for sale by owners, there was a lot of them at the time that I got into real estate. And I really just tapped into what I knew and who I was, and that was, I knew that I loved to help people. And so I would meet with for sale by owners, I would go into their homes, I would give them the tools that they needed to sell their home, and just develop a relationship. And that's what that's what my whole career in education was based on, is building relationships. So I took that and I applied it to the real estate business. And then, along the way, I earned a few designations and got very educated very quickly in the inner workings of the real estate industry. So that was one way that I overcame that major tank in the in the real estate industry and just branded myself as somebody, who would be long-term in the industry and building a great relationship with people.
Yeah, I think what you said there is really important to kind of highlight is that, like you said, you started at a bad time. The industry tanked on you, so then you probably even second guessing like what was I thinking? But then, like you said, you continued to persevere. You continued to move forward, and I think what else is key there is you chose to not necessarily, sell people, become a better salesman. You said, I decided to help people. So you looked where there was a big need of people needing help, and it was the for sale by owners, and you engaged those people. You helped to build that and cultivate a relationship, and you helped them. And then it sounds like that in itself, you were rewarded, long term, that you were able to build relationship and to build up a business that obviously has given you, the success that you've had.
Very true, and those clients some of those clients are still clients today, which is really cool because for me, real estate is all about the relationship. I think, and I can't remember who said this, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and real estate really isn't any different. And so, there was a time where I really didn't know if real estate was for me because there was such a sales part of it, and I really had to dig deep and think, okay, how can I make this business something that I am passionate about and I love to do every day? And it's just really knowing who you are and knowing what you love to do. And so you craft the business around, I crafted the business around my highest values, which is being a helper.
Yeah, I think that's great, and it kind of leads me into where we're going to go next is, and I kind of, after what you said already, I kind of have a feeling of where you're going to go with this question. But, what kept you going despite all these obstacles? Why didn't you give up? You had the down market. You're getting frustrated with potentially some, trying to learn a whole new system. What kept you moving forward when it came to real estate?
I have a failure is not an option mentality, and I have a lot of patience. In my past careers that I've had, as an educator and administration and all of that, I knew that I had to take my lumps per se, and I knew that there was an evolution to this, and that I would, I would fail forward, and I have a really great relationship with failure. And I also had a lot of evidence that I can succeed, based on my, being a competitive athlete and being, a young teen on their own. I just had a lot of evidence that I can succeed in the most adverse conditions, and I truly believe that there's always a solution to obstacles, and the solution may not look like I want it to, but the end result is what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. And so, kind of looking forward now, as you continue to build your business, what's your vision for your career for, say, the next 5 years?
So I'm kind of entering a new phase of my real estate career. I'm building a team right now, and that includes hiring buyer's agents and maybe a listing agent. But my true passion, as you've heard throughout this whole interview, is that I want to help people. And so my vision for the next 5 years is to leave the industry better than I found it. I'm working on a program, developing a program for real estate agents that will serve to increase the level of care that they provide to the public and give them the tools that will assist them in growing their business and becoming successful realtors themselves. The National Association of Realtors comes out with what's called the Danger Report, and one of the key points is that real estate agents need to be better practitioners and serve the public better, because the public doesn't have a great perception of who we are. So, my goal for the next 5 years is to implement this program, leave the industry at some point better than I found it.
So you finally found a way to meld in the teacher part to the real estate career.
I can't help it.
No, but that's great, because I think, like you said, you've built success on the principles that you've utilized yourself, and I think it's great that not only that you serve your customers, but to turn around and try to maybe correct the perception, or at least help, like you said, leave it better than when you entered it, that you can train other agents like, hey, this is how we should be doing business. We shouldn't be looked at as this, and if we start doing things the right way, maybe public perception can turn around and the image that people look at agents with.
Exactly.
So, kind of looking too as you grow your business, what do you feel the best way that you market yourself as a real estate professional so that you can continually grow?
That's a great question, and I really hope the listeners out there that are real estate agents hear this is just to really be authentic, to be consistent, and be prepared. And being authentic really requires you to do some soul searching as far as how you want to run your business. And, as you've heard through this interview, I've been able to craft a business that matches my style. And this may not be the style for other people, but I just love the relationship. And people know that. My clients know that. It's all about helping people get to the end result, which is called selling or buying a house. And that's just how I market myself, and that's why I work by referral only. I had 91% of my clients last year were referrals. I do get some other, sign calls, things like that, but that's how I grow my business.
Yeah, and I think that speaks volumes for obviously you as an agent that, over 90% of your business is referral based. So that means obviously people like the job that you're doing for them so much that they're willing to tell other people about it so that they then contact you.
Correct.
So I think that sometimes, there is, as you stated, there's a perception of real estate agents, that they just have this negative connotation, at least some of them or the industry in general. But what do you think the biggest misconception or the myth that people have about working with a real estate agent?
I would say that probably that our efforts are not in direct proportion to our compensation. Again, coming from a background of working with for sale by owners, the only reason for sale by owners, well, I wouldn't say the only reason, but the majority of for sale by owners, the only reason they want to sell their house on their own is to not pay a commission. And there are so many things that the public just doesn't understand from the time we hold the buyer and seller consultation to the close of escrow and beyond. I mean, there's no less than 20 people involved in that transaction and dozens of documents and mounds of paperwork. It's my job to know the contract inside and out and make sure the process is seamless as possible and keep the transaction in compliance with what the parties agreed to. Arizona is one of the few states where we can write the contract, and that's a huge responsibility. And that would be another thing that I would want, real estate listeners to really hear, is that it is a huge responsibility to be writing that contract for your clients. And it's a lot of liability on our part as well. So I think that, sometimes the public doesn't understand this, what is involved in, the contract to close process.
Yeah, I think that's important to look at too, because I think people might assume that, I'll just put my car on Craigslist and, it's just a simple little one document you might sign and you transfer ownership type thing. But, like you said with the house, there's so many pieces involved from, legality sides and all the appraisals and inspections and all that. Like you said, it's a lot to coordinate, and for a homeowner to try to have to figure all that out, there could be mistakes made, I imagine, and things could fall apart, and maybe they could end up getting a deal that they didn't, want because they didn't know what to look for.
Very true. It's very, very true. So, and I go to a lot of continuing education classes where, that are taught by attorneys, and it's just really interesting to hear what the, what sellers and buyers are suing real estate agents for. And, my job is to keep my sellers in compliance and to stay out of that. And I've been very careful. I'm a very careful practitioner. It's really important to me, the care and the trust that my clients put into me handling their transaction.
Excellent. And so this kind of a hypothetical situation, kind of to see how you would to give some counsel here. So let's say you get a call from a family member. Let's say they're in New York. They're fed up with the snow. They said, hey, Robyne, we're going to come out and move close to you. What advice would you give them? Now, obviously, we know you could potentially probably do a referral and you could do things like that. But in general, what are things that you would kind of counsel them so that they could select an agent that's going to serve their needs?
That's a great question. So if someone were coming in from out of state, either a family member or a friend, I would have them, if they could, rent for a few months, because I'm not sure if you're too familiar with Arizona, but we just have a very diverse landscape here. And Maricopa County has a lot of niche neighborhoods. So I want them to, drive around some neighborhoods, find out where they like to be, what's most valuable to them. Do they like to be up in the mountains? Do they like to be in, urban areas? Do they like a lot of land? I mean, there's just so much to choose from here. If they could rent for a little while, that would be great. And then most definitely interview no less than 3 agents. And sometimes it's not great to have a family member as your client, because, it's hard for them to fire you and they feel stuck, and you never want the client to feel stuck. So I would really say interview at least 3 agents, look at how many properties they've sold, how many transactions they've been through. The average real estate agent, I think now, only does a couple of transactions a year. So, just make sure that the person that you've hired has really got some expertise in your market area and also in transactions.
Yeah, I think it's important what you said there to find that experience, because as we kind of pointed out throughout the call, that it's not as simple as just posting an ad and doing a transaction. There's a lot more involved. So you want somebody. It'd be the same thing as if I was going to get eye surgery and I went to my dentist, right? It doesn't make sense, because he's not going to have any idea on how to handle that.
Exactly.
Now, if someone happens to be in the Scottsdale area, Arizona, what could they do to find out more information about you and how you can help them?
So they can go onto my website at RobyneRoveccio.com or email me at RobyneRoveccio.com, and I would be happy to sit down with them, have a buyer consultation, seller consultation. I want them to grill me. I want them to be very comfortable with their choice in hiring me as their real estate agent. So, I like to meet with them face to face. And, it's not like just call me and I'll put you in my car and we'll go for a ride. It has to be a good fit for both of us. And I want to make sure that I can meet your expectations and not, give you something that's unrealistic. So.
Excellent. So, Robyne, we want to, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come here today, and thank you for sharing your business experience and your knowledge with our listeners. And if everybody, you heard that we'll actually have a link below this interview to Robyne's site, as well as any other contact information for you to reach out to her. So, Robyne, thank you again for joining us. We certainly appreciate you taking the time.
And I appreciate it, too. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, everybody, until our next show, have a great day. We'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.